Hi, welcome back to the channel. I've been doing a little thinking and I thought that it might be interesting if I share with you some of the experiences that we've had to do with miracles. We've all heard stories about people that have been healed miraculously. But in the scriptures we read about Jesus doing some pretty spectacular things that no one could argue were real. Healing people that had been lame their entire life, laying on the ground and telling them to get up and walk, opening up a withered hand and suddenly it's restored, or healing people from leprosy, or opening eyes of blind people that have never seen a day in their life. And the topper is, of course, Lazarus being raised from the dead after he'd been in the tomb for 4 days. These are pretty amazing supernatural God miracles. There's no way that they could be called anything less. We just don't see very much of this in our day-to-day life. We hear about people that have been prayed for that recover, but sometimes godly people get sick and they die. And sometimes they do get better. And sometimes people that don't believe in God with medical treatment recover. So again, I don't know that we can class that as a miracle, but I know for a fact that God works miracles because he's done some pretty amazing things in our lives. And so today I'm going to share with you some of our personal experiences, the things that happened when we were in a tough situation, which I always call our wilderness situation. We went through it for an entire year in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. And during that time, God really taught us a lot of amazing things, so much so, we got so close to him during that time that we didn't actually feel comfortable leaving the wilderness when my husband got a job. I'm going to put a picture up and I'm going to show you the cottage that we lived in. It was quite tiny. It was furnished. It was clean. So we were happy to have it. We had 3 dogs at the time, so it was really kind of them to run it to us. The source of heat was a wood-burning stove in the corner. The main room had a seating area, a table and chairs, and along one wall it had your kitchen. And then there was a separate bedroom, a small bathroom with a shower, and then above the bedroom they had created a very small loft, and I would hang the clothes up there to dry because of course heat rises. And so anyway, we were struggling during this time. It was difficult finding work. We lived in an area that was very holiday orientated, and basically there were so few jobs that if there was a job that came available, usually one of the local peoples would tell their sister or their brother or their cousin, because Irish people have large families generally. And why not? You're going to look out for your own before somebody else comes along and takes an opportunity. But the good thing is that we were really blessed. When we got over there, we found a Christian fellowship. It was one of the first things we searched for because we knew the importance of having a church family and really staying in the Word. And we quickly made wonderful, wonderful friends, which we still love today. But it was difficult because all the plans that we had had when we moved back from the States, they kind of evaporated. And the money that we had, which we were setting up a new business and doing all these things, it kind of went. And we found that I had to leave the country. And so we went to Ireland. But in that time that we were there, finding regular work virtually impossible. And we didn't know from one week to the next how we would buy food, pay the electric bill, pay the rent, feed the dogs. I mean, it was a stressful time. But through all this experience, God gradually taught us that there was nothing too great or too small that he could not meet. I mean, I'm talking about every need, even the ones that seem silly. They were still important to God because he loves us and we're important to him, and what's important to us in terms of needs is important to him. I'll start the story where we were in Skibbereen. We went to the local market just to see what it was like because we had never been there before, and I came upon an organic produce stand. I was kind of looking around and I was listening to the woman talking to the customers that was running the stand. I realized that she was British. Sarah was really pretty and she had like blonde hair and really rosy cheeks. I knew I couldn't afford to buy the organic vegetables and fruits because when you've got very little money, you're going to be really careful with how you spend it, and you'll eat other kinds of vegetables and fruit before you spend it, on the organic. But I did have a look at the stand, and when she was freed up from talking to the other customers, I struck up a conversation with her. And she gave me her card. It was a business card, and she explained that you order it and then it would be there the following week at the market. So anyway, I took her card away with me, and when I got back to the cottage, I got to thinking maybe she could use a hand on their farm because they had an organic farm. So I sent her an email, and I told her, look, if you ever need any help on the farm doing anything, I'd be happy to work in exchange for some fruit and veg because, you got to eat, right? Well, I heard back from Sara, and she allowed me to come and start working with the Wolfers. Anyway, it was kind of pleasant because I got to work with these young people from various countries. It was interesting, and I learned a lot about organic farming and how particular it is. But at the end of my work time, they would give me her and her husband Johnny, they would give me a big box of fruit and veg to take away with me in exchange for my effort. And what they didn't realize was that God was actually using them to help keep us fed. And the fruit and vegetables were wonderful. They were fantastic. Some of the produce that they had, they ordered from France because they couldn't grow everything in Ireland because of the climate. Now, they had a really lovely house, big house, beautiful, and but they both worked really, really hard on the farm, and they also had 3 teenagers. They were just, working really hard, and so I happened to mention to Sara one day that if she ever wanted someone to come and clean her home, I could do that, and I would enjoy it. And then I got a call. She basically asked me if I would like to come and clean her house, and so I said yes. And I came and I cleaned it, and she was really, really happy. And next thing I know, she's telling all her customers about me. So I started getting contacted by these women that had big, beautiful houses. And so I was going around and I was cleaning homes and I was earning money. It was hard work because I'm no spring chicken, but I was so thankful for the work. One day I'd been up in the loft kind of hanging the clothes, and I said, God, my jeans are so tight and I don't really have anything nice. I'd love to have a new dress, something comfortable and warm, but my situation, that we don't really have the money that we can spend on that. So if you want to give me a dress, you're going to have to provide it for me. That afternoon, I went to work for Sara and Johnny, and she had me painting around the edge of the area where you walk into their house where they keep all their shoes and coats and everything. I was cutting in around the woodwork because I was going to paint that room. And I'm standing up on a coffee table. And the next thing I know, Sara comes up to the door and she says, she's holding this dress in front of her, and she said, I've got this dress and I got it at a really nice shop and everything, and I think it's beautiful and everything, but the colors just don't suit me. Do you like it? I think it would look really good on you. And this had only been a few hours since I had talked to the Lord about it. I thought, wow, that's weird. She said, get down, come here, put it in front of you, look in the mirror, what you think? And I really liked the dress. It was soft, it was warm, it was, it was colorful, and so I said to her, well, do you want something for it? She goes, no, I'm giving it to you if you want it. I was shocked. So anyway, I was delighted, and I'm going to put a picture of that up on the website as well, a picture of me standing in front of the cottage with that dress on. So God uses people all kinds of ways to meet our needs. The next story that I want to tell you about is quite funny. I was home alone. I think Rob must have been doing a temporary or speaking job or something somewhere. And I was in the ladies' room, and I looked down and I had this roll of toilet paper. It didn't have much left on it, And the Bible says that God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, right? So I talk to him the way I'm talking to you right now. I just have conversations with him because I don't do the thee, thou, thine, and all that. I don't think he wants that. He just wants us to be real. So I just kind of held up the toilet paper and I said, I only have a little bit of this left. Let's see you pull this one off. Because I didn't know how I was going to buy it. Let me explain that I didn't always have money. I didn't always have jobs. There were times when things were quite scarce. So later that same day, we get a knock on the door. Now, you have to keep in mind, we're living up on the side of this mountain with these big windmills behind us. And we didn't have a regular landline, and no one had called. And we hardly ever saw anybody except our neighbor next door to us. So I answered the door, and it's a couple of friends from church with their daughter. So Allie comes in, and her and Tom sit down, and Sinead. And we're all sitting there and we're talking, and I probably even forgot to give them a cup of tea because that's an American for you. I just don't think about these things. And after we had our conversation, it was a while, they were getting ready to leave, and she says, oh, hang on a second. And so Sinead goes out and gets in the back seat of the car, and she comes in with a box. And Tom goes out and he gets in the back of the trunk or the boot, and he comes back and he has a bucket of coal. Well, coal, we could always use coal because that was our source of heating. But the box had like bread, and I think it had some beans and some jam and, a few kind of staples that you would butter and stuff like that, and 3 rolls of toilet paper. And when I saw the 3 rolls of toilet paper, I burst out laughing. And Allie looked at me kind of odd, and she goes, what? And I said, you're not going to believe this. And she said, what? And I said to her, I was just talking to the Lord about it, and I told him, I don't hardly have any toilet paper left, so, let's see you pull this one off. And she goes, that's really weird. She said, because I was going to just bring you 1 roll, and then it was like, no. He said, take her 3, give her 3. And I just couldn't stop laughing. I just, and it's because I guess there's this feeling that you get when you know that the Lord is hearing you, even over the little simple things like toilet paper, that just gave me such a delight. It made me giggle. I was just so tickled that he had, sent her with this toilet paper. Now, another occasion, we had another lady at church that we would talk to once in a while, and we didn't really know each other all that well. She wasn't part of our Bible study group, but she was a nice person and everything. She lived alone. And so we're coming back from Bantry. I think we may have been at church, or it may have been that we were just in town, for whatever. I don't remember. But we were almost to the little town that we lived in, and then we had to go up to the mountain to where we were staying. And my husband said, should I stop and get some firelighters? Well, we really didn't. I mean, when you're tight, you're tight. When you don't have a lot of money, you're very careful. And so I said, I don't know, what you think? He says, well, I've got 1 left. I think I can get it started. It's not a problem, So we get back up to our place, and he goes and he starts the fire. Well, wouldn't you know it, it goes out. And that was our last firelighter. So thinking, what are we going to do now, right? And what happens? We get a knock on the door. And it's this woman that we didn't know all that well. Her name was Pam. And so we invited her in, and I think I did get her a cup of hot water she wanted. She always drank hot water. So I gave her a cup of hot water, and we're sitting there and we're chatting. And sometime during the conversation, she said, I know you're going to think this is really weird. And she turns around and she reaches down in her bag, and she pulls out this little paper bag. Little brown paper bag. She goes, I just felt like you needed this. And we opened it up, and what do you think was in it? Fire starters, firelighters. And I just burst out laughing. God kept doing this. And they may not seem, okay, they're not like, somebody's eyes being opened or somebody being raised from the dead or anything, but they are miracles, because there is no way what are the odds that the one thing we needed was the one thing that this woman brought to us out of the blue? And these kinds of things kept happening. One day my husband took me to drop me off so I could do some cleaning for one of the ladies that I was working for. And he was going to pick me up later. And the car had been acting a little weird. Well, while I was at work, the car broke down on him. He didn't know what he was going to do because he didn't have any money to get it towed. He had fortunately been able to pull off the road. So he calls one of our friends, and he says, where are you? And the next thing you know, he's there. He's got a big like a Range Rover, got it connected to a chain, drags our car all the way back to his place. Turns out the alternator had gone. He took it out, and he had a friend who was going to be able to repair it. Meanwhile, there's a guy sitting at the table in their kitchen who we had met one time in town. We had talked about dogs with. He was in front of the pet store. Big guy, burly beard, Scottish, real character, named Bill. Love him to bits. Good friend of ours. And we didn't know him at the time, really. And he heard the conversation, and he looked up at my husband, and he goes, "Do you have another car?" And he goes, "No." And he says, "Well, I've got a car you can borrow." A total stranger. And he gives us a car to use while our car is being fixed. So Rob gets the car with him, comes back to find me. Now, his phone had died. I had no way of knowing where he was. I left one final message. I'm like, if you get this message, I'm walking over to this department store. It's the only place I can think to go that will be open. I'm going to get there before it's dark. So that's where you'll find me. Because this was quite a ways from where we lived, and there was no way I'd get there any other way. There wasn't transportation. It was over the mountain kind of thing. So I remember going in, and I remember sitting back in the section where all the clothes and stuff were, and there happened to be this little chair there, so I sat down. I made myself comfortable. I was really tired, and I was watching all the ladies going around shopping, and they had these big carts just full of stuff because it was coming up to Christmas time, and we weren't going to have a Christmas. We weren't even going to have a tree because we just didn't have it. We were living hand to mouth. And I was just sitting there, and I was thinking about everything that I was taking in. I was making some notes in my little notebook and kind of observing. And I'd sat there for quite a while, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. At this stage, my phone died. So now I have no way to call him. He has no way to call me. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I walk over to one of the counters, one of the service desks. There's a young lady there, and I said, this is going to be a really dumb question, but is there a pay phone or anything around here? My phone's died. I have no way to get hold of my husband. And she goes, you can just use my phone. And there was a phone on the desk. And so she gave me an outside, she dialed it for outside, and I phone, and lo and behold, my husband answers. And I'm like, where are you? And he says, well, where are you? And I told him, I'm in such and such a store. Well, I'm in that store. And it was funny because he had come there and he topped up the card. And he was trying to figure out how to get hold of me so that he could find out where I was so he could pick me up. And here he had come to the same store that I happened to be in. Well, when I went up to the front to meet him, he told me the story of how Bill had loaned us the car and all this, and I was just blown away. But, again, God provided for every little thing that we needed, and even the bigger stuff. And we learned very quickly that he was there, that he listened, that he loved us, that he cared, and that miracles still do happen. So I hope this wasn't too long, and I hope you enjoyed the stories. And I'll leave it for now, and until I talk to you the next time, God bless you.